Since ancient times, prophecies of martyrdom have surrounded the figure of the Pope, and now a nun in Brazil has shared a vision that suggests Pope Francis could face this fate. This gives us pause. Could Pope Francis be a martyr in these times of conflict and spiritual turmoil? What implications would this possible martyrdom have for the Catholic faith and the world at large? If this event were to occur, it would undoubtedly mark a time of great tribulation for the Church and would be interpreted as a sign of resilience and faith in the midst of extreme adversity. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. The vision, shared by Mariologist Luke Gelasius, recalls the prophecy of St. Malachi, which describes a last pope known as Peter the Roman, who would lead the Church in times of tribulation. This ancient prophecy suggests that in the end times, the Church will face great persecutions and disasters. This is not the first time that Pope Francis' name has been linked to such prophecies. During his leadership, it has coincided with numerous global crises, such as the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, which have endangered world stability and also increased hostility towards Christianity. Another point of interest is the third secret of Fatima, which describes the vision of a bishop dressed in white falling amidst ruins and destruction, an image that has been associated with contemporary popes, including Francis. Although this interpretation is not official, many people find in it a parallel to the current situation, where church leaders are increasingly exposed to physical threats and dangers. For many, these visions are a warning of difficult times to come, not only for the Pope, but also for the entire Church. Gelasio, who disclosed the nun's vision, stressed that these experiences often have a divine origin and that the revelation was received with prayer and deep discernment. Francis himself has pointed out that martyrdom is not a thing of the past, since, according to him, the number of contemporary martyrs exceeds that of the early centuries of the Church. This reflects the suffering that many Christians face around the world for remaining faithful to their faith. In Brazil, a country with the largest Catholic population in the world, these prophetic visions generate particular fervor. Throughout history, this country has witnessed numerous episodes of religious fervor and messages that many consider divine warnings. The nun's vision is interpreted not only as a personal revelation, but as a call to spiritual preparation for what could come. Pope Francis's role in this scenario also generates speculation about the impact of his potential martyrdom. While some see these predictions as alarmist, the increase in attacks and persecutions against religious figures lends weight to these concerns. Prophecies ancient and modern remind us that the world continues to face spiritual and physical challenges that threaten the stability of the Church and the faith of millions. In the face of this vision, believers are called to value the importance of prayer and spiritual fortitude, following the example of the martyrs who, in Francis's own words, are witnesses to faith and love, even in the midst of violence and suffering. If you feel that the world is full of challenges and your faith is being tested, you are not alone. There is a path of hope and strength you can follow, and understanding the prophecies about Pope Francis and his potential martyrdom could give you a new perspective on faith and courage in difficult times. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This e-book delves into his prophecies and offers a glimpse of what lies ahead. It is available for free in the Anchored Commentary. Grab it now before we run out of editions. Since Luke Gelasius began disseminating the visions of the Northeastern Nun, each one has delved into scenarios of conflict and catastrophe. In September 2023, one of these visions materialized the very next day, with a suicide explosion in Mastung, Pakistan, during a religious celebration that left dozens dead and wounded. Such attacks, linked to groups such as the Islamic State in Khorasan, highlight the vulnerability at religious events and reflect the growing violence in the region. In addition, the nun described a series of 5 additional events with symbols related to natural disasters and military conflicts. One of the events highlights the appearance of something similar to a shooting star, which may allude to a falling meteorite or even a missile launch. Another event showed people gathered around a large hole, which could symbolize a massive collapse, such as a sinkhole, which can occur due to geological phenomena or attacks. The fourth event included a series of natural disasters, strong winds, violent waves, and earthquakes that collapse buildings. This is of concern as climate change has increased the frequency and intensity of extreme events such as hurricanes, storms, and tsunamis, as well as seismic activity in densely populated urban regions. The volcanic eruption mentioned below is a reminder of the vulnerability of regions in the Pacific Ring of Fire, where some of the world's most active volcanoes are located. The nun also predicted an explosion in Poland, connecting this vision to a previous revelation on August 8, 2023. It involves an explosion in a city of the sun that would trigger the intervention of other nations and could lead to a Third World War. Although the exact location of the City of the Sun is not specified, it could evoke cities of historical significance or strategic importance. It is notable to recall a previous event in November 2022 when an anti-aircraft missile launched from Ukraine struck Przewodów, Poland, killing 2 people. This incident generated a reaction in NATO as it involved a mistake in the middle of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and highlighted the possibility of a major conflict in case of escalation. To contextualize this apocalyptic scenario, the vision includes a biblical reference the nun received about Habakkuk 2:1-4. This passage speaks of patience and divine justice. The just shall live by his faith. It is a call to maintain faith and trust in God, even when circumstances seem overwhelming. This message of endurance and hope can be seen as a spiritual response to the nun's visions, which address not only physical threats, but also spiritual challenges that can affect humanity as a whole. Are you inspired by the courage of the martyrs? Discover how these revelations can strengthen your faith. There are only a few copies of our free ebook, so be sure to get yours at the first comment posted. Against this backdrop of potential calamity, the figure of Japan emerges in the visions as an agent of peace. According to the nun's revelations, Japan would have a decisive role in ending the war through a heroic act, underscoring the importance of reconciliation and the role of nations seeking peace in the midst of conflict. These elements, linked to Japan's pacifist history and culture, present a narrative where, even in the face of disaster, there is room for hope and intervention in pursuit of world peace. The dream that the northeastern nun had on June 17th unfolds with a prophetic message delivered by a 15-year-old boy who warns of an impending catastrophic event. This young man, dressed as an altar boy, came from purgatory and explained that a rainbow would appear around the world as a sign of tribulation, but also of hope. In several traditions, rainbows are related to divine promises. In the teachings of Joseph Smith, for example, the absence of rainbows is considered to indicate the end times, where apocalyptic signs and profound changes in the world order are expected. When the nun awoke from this dream, she felt the need to confirm her message, and, upon opening the Bible, she found Matthew 24. This passage is one of the most referenced texts in the context of end-time prophecies. In it, Jesus speaks of wars, famines, and natural disasters, pointing out that these tribulations will be the beginnings of great sorrows, marking the beginning of the end. This narrative also resonates in the Gospel of Luke, where Jesus mentions that nations will rise up against one another and there will be great signs in the heavens, such as earthquakes and celestial phenomena, which prelude major events. Beyond the biblical confirmation, the nun experienced a vision on June 19th, in which she saw Pope Francis collapsing in a square, wounded. The description of the surroundings reminded her of Fatima's Shrine Square and Moscow's Red Square, places with a strong symbolic charge for both the Church and history. The fall of the Pope, according to his vision, was caused by a gunshot, and in his aid were important figures of the Church. This type of revelations about violence against religious leaders evokes other prophecies that speak of persecutions and martyrdoms in the end times. The idea of a final judgment and the purification of the faithful is recurrent in apocalyptic texts, suggesting that humanity will undergo a purification before the final restoration. In the context of the end times, prophets such as Ezekiel and Joel also describe devastating events that will precede an era of peace. Ezekiel 38-39 in particular mentions the invasion of Gog and Magog, where an apocalyptic conflict is unleashed, testing the faith and endurance of the faithful. These stories invite reflection on the role of spiritual leadership figures in times of crisis and how their sufferings become symbols of endurance for those who seek to keep the faith. Want to learn more about prophecy and its impact today? Download the ebook before the available units sell out. The symbolism of the rainbow is also taken up in the Book of Revelation, where God's throne is described as being surrounded by a rainbow as a symbol of his covenant. This heavenly rainbow can be interpreted as a reminder of God's constant presence, even in the times of greatest tribulation. According to the nun's vision, the rainbow will be the last sign before the final events begin, reminding believers of God's promise of protection and salvation. The appearance of a visible, worldwide phenomenon, such as a rainbow, resonates with the idea that nature itself will participate in the signaling of the end times, preparing humanity for what is to come. The nun's perspective that a catastrophic event will affect Pope Francis in a significant historical or religious context brings to mind the prophecies of the final tribulation that, according to many scholars, will signal the climax of human history before an era of redemption. The biblical narrative mentions that false prophets will deceive many and that those who persevere will be saved, reiterating the importance of standing firm in faith during times of trial, and underscoring that spiritual perseverance will be key to getting through adversity. The vision the northeastern nun had on October 16th showed Francis in a bed, intubated and with visible wounds, as thousands of people gathered in prayer in front of St. Peter's Basilica. This image of Francis wounded evokes the attacks that have marked the recent history of the Church. Although the vision does not show his death, it does seem to reflect a critical state similar to the attack suffered by John Paul II in 1981. On that occasion, the pontiff was saved after being shot in St. Peter's Square, which many saw as a miraculous event that strengthened his spiritual leadership and still resonates today as an example of resilience and faith. The nun also makes mention of the visions of Father Oliveira, who in 2017 and 2020 received images of Francis under threat. In one of those visions, Oliveira saw a torrent of blood entering the church amidst storms and lightning, symbolizing times of tribulation. In the second vision, the Pope hesitated to sign a document while looking at a map of the West. This act represents the internal struggle and dilemmas Francis could face in the face of decisions that could redefine the direction of the Church. Indeed, the recent Synod of Synodality has exposed controversial issues and internal divisions in the Church from the role of women to welcoming the LGBTQ+ faithful. Throughout 2023, Francis's health has been a constant focus of concern. He has faced respiratory problems, knee ailments, and most recently, a lung inflammation that prevented him from attending the COP28 summit. This year has also been marked by his hospitalization following hernia surgery and the return of his chronic sciatica problems, which have forced him to use a cane or wheelchair for public appearances. These physical difficulties add a layer of uncertainty to his ability to continue to face challenges within and outside the Church, especially those related to world peace and doctrinal reform. Looking for spiritual guidance in these uncertain times? The free ebook is available to you, but few copies remain. Click on the first pinned comment to be sure to receive this valuable insight before it's gone. The visions of Oliveira and the nun suggest an environment fraught with spiritual tension, with Francis facing decisions that could influence the Church in profound ways. The images of people in candlelight vigils refer to scenes of mass prayer, a frequent phenomenon when Catholics sense that their spiritual leader is in danger or ill. This was also evident when Francis launched his encyclical Laudate Deum, where he exhorted humanity to combat climate change, linking this cause to the spiritual and physical well-being of the Church. However, his approach to environmental issues has generated criticism and divisions, reflecting the ongoing challenge of balancing tradition and modernity within the Church. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us continue to create valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. As for potential threats, the Church has faced situations in the past where high-ranking figures have been targeted. The Pope's safety is a constant concern, and any act of violence against him could destabilize not only the Vatican, but also his millions of faithful. Internal tensions and global conflicts, such as the war in Ukraine and the situation in the Middle East, contribute to an environment in which the Pope, because of his stance and mediation efforts, could be seen as a target for hostile actors.